Good morning, everybody. Yes, it's Monday morning, start of a brand new week into the month of July, and it's the 5th, which means we've had our American friends celebrate their Independence Day. The Canadians had Canada Day the other day. You know what's interesting about all of this is they chose them in the middle of summer. And where did we put Freedom Day? Arbitrarily in April. Why? Because of the elections that the old regime decided to hold then. We should have had ours in the middle of summer too. And people could be partying and having a good time. And yeah. Anyway, how's everyone feeling? No one's died of the vid, right? Everybody okay?
All good.
Leigh-Ann, you're alive?
Yeah, all fine.
You're alive.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank God. Mbulelo, you survived, so you're okay. You're still immune as far as I can tell.
Yeah, a hero still. I mean, let's not go on about it.
What a hero. All right. So I'm not even going to ask if you did anything fun over the weekend because there was nothing to do if you wanted to have fun. Yeah, I know. It was. I was pretty much at home from like Thursday. I don't think I've left my house. I didn't even go to the shops. So I've pretty much been. This is probably the first weekend. No, I had probably three weekends last year that I didn't see another person or do anything, and this one was about the most quiet I've been this year. So like I've mostly not let the lockdown affect me that much, but this weekend I just felt like taking it easy. I thought, why go and look for trouble, you know? Mm-hmm. And in any case, where are you going to go? I mean, like besides going to the shops, what are you going to do? You know, there's nothing to do. There's nothing you can. I saw all these like Instagram things of all my friends in America, like celebrating the 4th of July. And I was like, oh, you people can do stuff. We can't do anything. We can't even, we're not even allowed to leave Gauteng. If we're in Gauteng, we got to stay here. Right?
Well, you know what's interesting is that we can travel abroad.
Really?
But we can't leave Gauteng. Yes.
So which countries will allow us in? Because as I understood it a short while ago, there were lots of countries that just didn't want us visiting them. Isn't that right?
There's Phuket, which actually has a 0 quarantine time.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah. So there are quite a few people who are going there. So
All
if you're just, I mean, even though the surrounding areas are still teeming with COVID, they're so desperate to have tourism back that they've allowed this. So if you're brave enough to skip quarantine, travel internationally, and go to an island for 3 weeks, there's that opportunity. Yeah, there are people going there from all over the world, actually.
Well, I saw 3 different friends who were not there at the same time, all enjoying a little holiday in the Maldives, actually, where apparently you get the vaccine upon arrival.
Right.
Oh, wow. That looked like fun. But of course, you still have to pay for those holidays in the Maldives. And I don't know about you, but it's not like I've got just piles of cash and gold lying around. You know, my treasury is empty, I'm afraid. I'm not going to be going on any holidays for any time soon. Oh, man. So here we go. A couple of people saying, I could see what you were saying. Errol says, Gareth, you were right. Zuma may not go to prison. See why I didn't get excited, people. Andre saying, Gareth was right again. Zuma is as free as a queen bee. B-E-E, obviously. Well done, Andre. And Graham saying, Nkandla party this weekend. Big Joel. Ha, ha, ha. Now, let's just get this out of the way because I don't want to talk too much politics on a Monday morning. I mean, there's lots to talk about, but I didn't watch the Jacob Zuma thing yesterday. When he put out a statement saying he will address the nation at X, Y, I mean, like, you're not president anymore. You don't get to address the nation.
Exactly.
We don't even listen to Cyril anymore. Why would we listen to you, douchebag?
So I caught part of his response during the hearing. And what was so, it took me way back very quickly at how slowly he reads. And again, I don't hold this against him because, you know, it's not his first language, etc. But it did make me think, imagine getting through those long speeches that Cyril has to give at the moment for COVID. They would have taken hours.
For him, yeah, especially with the numbers. This is how many people are infected now, and he'd just get them so fucked up. And he'd get them so wrong, and then the whole world would even more. We don't need that. Anyway, so, all right, a few things. First things first, Cullis says that Maldives is starting a vaccination destination. Apparently direct flights and board for $25,000. That's good.
Yeah, my brother's going.
Sorry, what's that, Mbulelo?
Is that return or one way?
Well,
must be return.
Got to be return. They wouldn't let you stay forever, as much as you'd
like.
I'm saying
$25,000 return to the Maldives. That's not the worst thing in the world. I mean, for that you go to London, and that's a real hellhole.
That's pretty good going. Actually. That's not a bad price. I mean, listen, it's still a huge amount of money. I don't have it lying around, but for a little. And I'm the kind of person who I don't even need company on a holiday like that. I would go on my own for a week.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Sure. While all of you are suffering here in winter, I'll pick up my shit and go. I'll even try to do
my brother's going in, I think next month or October.
Oh, nice.
Man.
Yeah.
That's very nice.
But it's cool though, because I get an upgrade. I get to stay in his gorgeous house with his beautiful new spaniel.
Is he considerably richer than Yao?
Definitely. He's definitely overtaken me. Being 8 years my junior didn't last long. So yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking how many families there are now who, because of all the things that have happened to everyone in the world. I wonder how many of those hierarchies have changed.
Ooh.
I wonder how many people are staying. We've spoken about all these people who've separated, or people who've had marital difficulties, or they've come to realize that the person that they married, because they're around them all the time instead of just, the non-working hours, they've moved apart, and it's made their lives horrible and difficult.
Yeah.
I wonder about those people who they look at their partner, their significant other now, and they're like, they really suck, but I can't afford to go out on my own.
Mm-hmm.
Who's the bigger loser there? Because most of the dynamics where I live is that the man works, and the whether young or old, the lady looks after the house. So generally rich guy, good looking woman, not necessarily always in love, but it's just how it works. Money gets you certain things. Who's the bigger loser? The rich guy who could never actually attract a good-looking girl, and then she realizes he's a douchebag, or the other way around. I've always wondered who's the actual winner in this situation, because where does she go? And I mean, being rich, you can kind of just move on, right?
I don't know, dude. Some people. You think about the blessers and blessees in this country. There are a lot of people, not just women but men as well, who will stay with someone just for money. Money seems to be a major reason a lot of people are together. I know it's easy it's not easy. It is. It's a lot more practical in the minds of people who either have never struggled for money or who've got a way to make money no matter what. People who are like immensely productive, and people who have the option of resources, or who have more independence. It's very difficult for them to think about things this way. But if you've never had that, if you've always been dependent on someone, then having money is way more important than anything else.
Yeah, and we're not talking pots of money here. We're talking money to survive. We're not talking about billionaires and living lavish lifestyles. We're talking about people who probably can't get divorced because they can't afford to live anywhere else.
Oh, that's tough. I've always said, date in your class. Date in your class. People say I'm brutal.
Yeah, but how does that help someone in the working classes? I mean, you're still not going to have money.
I've always said, Gareth, I've always said social mobility for me is a fallacy. Listen, save money, and otherwise money becomes a thing. It is a thing. I view money as portable power.
I've always had a very forgiving approach to this, because we were very poor when at one stage when we were kids, and we had very little. I mean, I remember my brother and I in our bedroom, which was, I mean, it was the size of a box. At one point, our only toys were Italian 90 Coke cans. Like those were the only decoration in the room. We were soccer fans, you know. So I do know, and I mean, I'm not saying we were as poor as the poorest people that have ever lived, but we were certainly, by comparison with everything else in our lives, that was a stage where we didn't have anything else. There was no luxury at all, nothing, zero. And you know what? I look back on it now, and I was like, character building, but Jesus, I never want to go there again, right? And we've been in good times, and I think about what Leigh-Ann's saying about her brother now, and how, you know, he's living better than she did, blah blah blah. It doesn't matter if you've got family, you all kind of support each other. Like Pumi said the other day when I brought up the black tax, I think there are very few, except the meanest, nastiest people in the world, who would like to see their family members impoverished. So I think that there are very few people in the world who will go, oh, well, you know, well, screw my brother or screw my sister. They must just suffer along. Like your brother wouldn't let you go hungry, Leigh-Ann.
No, exactly. And quite literally, he's often, you know, pitched up with tons of groceries for me because he's been worried about, you know, whether I'm eating or not. Right. But also, I mean, I think back to, and he reminds me often, I think back to especially being almost a decade older than the rest of the cousins and family. And I was in a better financial position. I would support all of them as much as I could. You know. So
in other words, you paid it forward. Now they have to pay you back.
Well, this might be a lesson. It certainly wasn't what I was thinking at the time. But help when you can.
Help when you can, because you don't know. There's going to be a point where you can't, and then they help you.
Yeah, well, yeah. Like my grandfather said, you never know what's around the corner. Tables turn. You just never know.
Well, Eleutheria says she listens to us in the mornings, and she says that she had to go out this weekend to use someone's shower. But today she finally woke up to some water, because they've cut her water off for, like, it feels like months now. But it's been a couple of days, and she's been strong about this. So well done, Eleutheria. And Steph says, London, shit weather, cuck food, pasty people, and yet still the center of the world. If possible, one should live in London at least once in a lifetime. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Yeah, I see that Boris and his stupid governments are talking again about going into a lockdown. You know, a lot of these governments just can't let go of this now. They've felt what it's like to just control, and now they can't get enough of it.
Especially the British. I mean, if there's a nanny state, it is England.
Absolutely. We talked about this the other morning, and you're 100% right, Mbulelo. It's almost like they like it. It's Mencken. It's H.L. Mencken who said people prefer safety to freedom, right? Everybody, if you ask them, they'll say, oh, no, I like freedom. But if you give them safety instead of freedom, they're like, oh, that's perfect. And then they're happy. They're good little peasants. They're good little servants. They like to be told what to do. People are like, keep me safe, and I will do exactly what you say. Anyway, Hlonishwa says, how's it? Awesome show on Friday. Must have listened to it 3 times over the weekend. You guys were on point with topics. Leigh-Ann was on form with the singing and Instagram capability. It's a classic. Oh, very good. All right, we had fun on Friday. Jesus, we had a lot to talk about, man. It moved so quickly. By the time we got to 8 o'clock, I thought we still have an hour of show left, and we didn't. Bad. This is advice from Jim. Okay, so Jim, you haven't sent us a message before, but I want to hear more from you because you seem like a very smart human being. Jim says 3 rules to keep sane in South Africa. Number 1, do not watch Carte Blanche. Good idea. Number 2, do not listen to 702 or actually any talk radio station. And number 3, don't watch a Jacob Zuma interview on SABC. All very good advice. All very good advice. Tracy says correctly, Victoria in Australia is the nanny state of nanny states. Yes, I think that probably beats England. Victoria, of course, it's where Melbourne is. Yeah.
I've lived in 2 countries. I don't know. Now, I've never lived in Australia. I have visited there, Nanny State. Canada. Oh, I've always said they are the most boring people in the world of all time.
It's fine for us to say, and I know there are different kinds of people in the world. That's what makes the world interesting. But some people do really like a safe, functional, efficient state. And sometimes I am in that category. I'll admit that up front. Like there's some days where I go, oh, I wish people just had decent public transport. I wish, the post office worked. I really do. I want all that stuff to happen. But then there's that anarchic part of me that's like, you know what? Actually, it's better to live in the Wild West where you can make your own rules. I'm sure that there are people who would prefer every day to just have more rules, have everyone follow them. But there are some of us who occasionally we get a bit of a kick out of knowing that this place is open for business. You can do anything. Like we said the other day, you can get anything you want in this country if you're prepared to pay for it, or if you're prepared to deal with some dodgy people. And something about that appeals to me. I don't know how, I don't know why, I can't explain it, but it's a good thing. So I'm really halfway. This nanny state thing it's going to carry on being an issue in the world.
I mean, you think of how many, and I know it's become an overused term, and everyone is one now. But you think of how many entrepreneurs there are in South Africa and the opportunities for us compared to how many are in London. Real business game changers, changing the way things work. We've got a lot of leeway.
I just got a message from Zelna on social media. She says she just got back from the Maldives yesterday. She had a lovely time. To see. So, Hannah, there's a place, but I don't know what I think it's that they've got one of those semi sort of autocratic governments. But look, I've said it a million times. I actually had this conversation with my sister over the weekend. We moan, and we really love to moan. South Africans moan more than anybody. Well, it certainly feels that way to me. But how many times in a day does the government really interfere in your existence? And how often do you... I mean, Cyril's office is maybe 12-minute drive from my house. I don't really have that much of Cyril in my life. He goes on TV every now and then, makes up some rule about what we can and can't buy, or tells us we have to be in our houses by 9 or whatever it is. But really, this is the most I've ever had to do with government in my life. And if you don't read the news, like Jim's excellent message is, it says that we must ignore those shows that tell us all the stuff that we're supposed to know all the time. Just 100 years ago, you wouldn't have known this news because if you didn't buy the newspaper, which came out maybe once a week, they didn't come out every day. There wasn't enough.
It's
and if
so true.
It didn't come out every day. It was like an A4 page if you were lucky, right? And you didn't know what was happening in Joburg if you lived in Pretoria. You didn't know what was going on in Bloemfontein. There's no chance because the guy on the horse who was bringing the news from Bloemfontein, sometimes he didn't make it. He got shot on the way, or something happened, or his horse
could only go that fast.
Yeah, and sometimes you just didn't know what was happening in Bloemfontein for weeks, maybe even months. If you had family, even one town away, even a few houses away, you didn't find out about them more than once a week, maybe once a month, maybe even once a year. So let's just stop with all this obsession that we're all involved in the world every minute of the day. We're really not. And the world carries on turning, man. There are a lot of places that just keep ticking over. Nothing changes for a lot of people.
Having said all of this, if there is a beautiful lady who's just had her first divorce and got a pile of money, I am open for business. I'm certainly up for a Maldives trip. Yeah.
You see, I was worried when Sia left that we would lose our gold digger.
No.
I thought we'd lose the person who was out there and making themselves available to whoever had cash. But here he is, everybody. Ladies, if you're interested in Mbulelo, we'll do whatever it takes to spend.
Absolutely. You don't have to love me. You don't have to look at me. Just give me the dollar, baby. And I've always said my whole thing is I'd love to be a stay-at-home dad for like a year or two. I'm a bit of a hyperactive person, so I wouldn't be able to kind of stay for too long. But I'd love to just be that annoying dad. Those dads who think they're the best dads in the world by having the front pouch thing where they put the baby in and they put it on Instagram. I'd love to be that. And it's your kids. And eventually after 2 years, we know we don't love each other, but we just do it for 2 years. I take a bit of money and we both move on. It'll be phenomenal. Phenomenal.
Then you are willing to be a blessing. That's all you need.
What about, what did you say, dating in your class?
Oh, well, I mean, listen, that's why I'm saying we kind of know there's an expert, and the rules apply to other people, not me.
Yeah. I know a guy who he hooked up with this older, richer woman for a while. I think they were together for like a 2-year, 3-year period, and they were quite happy. Hey, she knew he was with her because he was young and energetic and good looking, and I think he was giving her a good seeing to every couple of days, which I think she liked. And I think she was getting into the wallet and giving, wads of cash to him, and he was loving that. Now, why does society look differently upon that sort of a relationship than it does upon an old man and a young woman? Why is society? I mean, this is where I start to think that the feminists might have a point, especially those crazy feminists who are always complaining about the patriarchy. I think they might actually have a point in this respect. Like sometimes when I see how people treat that kind of relationship I just described as opposed to the usual one of the younger woman and older man, then I say, well, maybe they got something going for them. Because it's always in the discrimination that it matters. It's not in the equality.
There's a couple on TikTok who often go live. In fact, that's what they do. I don't know what else they do. They do it all day. You go into their account, they're always live. But it's an American couple. It's a strapping black man in his, I'd say, late 20s. And his girlfriend is a white woman in her 70s.
Oh, this is Mbulelo. This is Mbulelo's fantasy right here.
Yeah. Yes. She's got no teeth. She looks like the classic version of a witch from a storybook.
Oh my God! Please find us a picture of them.
Wow.
Oh my Lord! I don't even know their names, but
all
they do all day.
What do they do when they go live? I mean, what are they showing you? Their lives?
All they do is they sit in a chair and just talk and defend their relationship, and give zap signs to the naysayers, and pretend that they're having a good time.
And this old woman gets aggressive with people who have a problem.
Oh yeah, she's got this she's got beautiful hair, but she's like, "You don't get up in my face. You don't get up in my face."
That's great. She's saying,
"I don't care what you say."
Good for her.
I'll try and find the account for you, but yeah, there's some crazy people out there, man.
I'm not going to embarrass you, Mbulelo, because when you send me stuff, I'm not always sure if it's stuff you want me to share with people, but he recorded an unboxing over the weekend, but he was taking the piss out of it. So, these influencers who do this unboxing. Mm-hmm. So I'll do my version because I'm not so embarrassed by it. And
no, more than happy for you to share, by the way.
No, let me do my version because I've actually scripted this. Okay, so here it is. I'm gonna do this as I would have delivered it if I'd actually recorded a video from Mbulelo. So here it is. Hey guys, I've just been beaten by my boyfriend, and I'm not leaving him because he gave me new titties and an influencer light. So I was begging stupid brands over the weekend to give me free shit because most marketing managers are really scummy lowlives who will fillet an old man for a free t-shirt, but they sent me this box of expired chocolates over here. Can you see it? So I'm going to stuff them into my huge big mouth right now and tell you about it in ASMR detail because everybody knows that there's not enough of that of people eating expired chocolates. I'm just really brave. That's me. That's my thing. But anyway, guys, like and subscribe and let me empty the contents of my head onto the screen of your device so that you can feel a bit of Schadenfreude for being a few IQ points smarter than me. And despite the fact that both of us still don't have jobs and that we do videos like this all the time, hoping someone will save us from our horrible lives, next time I will be posting pictures, so get ready for that, of my ass in a thong from 2013. Remember, when I was actually thin because I was eating thins nonstop and living on a treadmill? Remember that? Those were the times for that pair of Chinese shoes that made my feet stink. But anyway, guys, I have to go now. So the municipality are coming to switch off my lights because I'm delinquent. I haven't paid them since 2012. Love you guys. Don't forget the special on protein shakes on my Instagram page. 3% off on bulk orders of 50 kilograms or more. Bye.
50 kilograms of protein powder. Wow. You could start your own gas station with that.
But I mean, what is with these? Listen, I watched one unboxing in my life. I've watched one, and I there decided that this was not something I needed to do. In my head, if I'm not the one fantasizing about opening up the box of something that I've ordered online, I don't want to see someone else doing it. And
yeah,
that makes me boring. If it makes me 1 out of a million instead of 1 out of every 5, then
no, it's the opposite. It doesn't make you boring. It just highlights how boring the whole thing is. But there are swathes of people who will wait for some celebrity to unbox something, especially when it comes to cosmetics. Wow.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Do they?
To get the new Jeffree Star palette or. No, it's really. I'm so glad that I don't have to worry about that stuff anymore. I worked in the cosmetics industry before.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's not authentic. Like it is.
No, it's very shallow.
I don't mind shallow. Like whatever. I'm a superficial person. I'm not sanctimonious. But that sort of marketing is not authentic. Like surely we know now. Like okay, that's not what's happening. Or maybe we don't.
Basitsana says that I suck at influencer videos. Thank God. That's a compliment. So turned on by that. Basitsana, you want to marry me? Zillan says, what about Squirmy and Grubs? The woman is really hot and the man is a very disabled little man. It's so gross.
Oh, where is that?
Holy smokes.
Obviously,
they're also... I want to see that.
I do not have a TikTok. And I'm not going to open one. When people send me the...
No, it's huge. Yeah, it's hugely enlightening. And there's some really useful information on there.
Listen, we got a Cliff Central TikTok and it's growing. And the most popular video on there was like a video of Jane that you've got to go and see. But I'm not in a hurry. I'm not going to start my own TikTok. If I ever open a TikTok, it'll be to observe other people. I'm not going to be one of those people who puts.
Oh yeah, that's what I've done. I don't have one video up.
No, if Cliff Central has TikTok, that's different because we'll actually be creating interesting stuff for you. But I have no desire to do that. In fact, I've been thinking about it, and I don't know if I even want to put out content anymore in my social media. It'll be there for Cliff Central stuff, but I'm not sure. I don't even know if I want to post Instagram stuff anymore. I mean, I haven't for a couple of days, and I might just make a couple more and see how it goes. Because I've sort of lost interest in it. Really. I mean, I love this show. This is the only thing I can keep doing where I don't feel like it's a drain and I don't feel like I get bored very easily.
The last time I posted on Instagram was the 2nd of March.
Yeah,
and before that was in June last year. But it was interesting to see how Instagram keeps on changing, and I have to keep up to date with this because of my job. But Instagram changes what they do so often. And so at the moment, they are focusing more on the algorithm will favor over photographs. It'll favor video content. And the CEO himself has said, we're under extreme pressure from TikTok because of this short form video content. But the thing is, Instagram is one of the few places or social media platforms that remains where you can have just a platform of beautiful photographs, instead of all this noise, this extraneous noise of people's opinions and stupid clips. So I don't know why they're trying to be like everybody else. I mean, they introduced Instagram TV. They felt that YouTube was a competitor, and then they felt that Facebook stories were, doing better than Instagram stories. It's just like, guys, stay true to yourself. There are still people who just want to post beautiful photographs. So now they'll be pushing up these videos that we would usually find on TikTok.
They're so worried they're going to lose market share to TikTok or whatever else that they forget the reason that they started. And it's good to move. It's good to like adapt to the times. But for example, I hope that our video version of our show that you could watch on YouTube, that we have, a much smaller proportion of the people who watch our show live on YouTube than listen to it as a podcast. I hope that the YouTube show hasn't at all taken away from the podcasting, because if it has, then we are missing the point, because this is not first and foremost a YouTube show. It is partly a YouTube show, but it is mostly a podcast. And the same goes for Instagram. If you're mostly that picture sharing and video sharing site that you used to be, that's more important than trying to be a better version of TikTok than they are.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think the important part to remember here is that the same owners, the founders aren't the owners anymore. A guy called Mark Zuckerberg, you might have heard of him. He's come in and taken over. So it's no longer the original owners. Facebook are a different beast.
Yes, and they're a horrible beast. And Facebook really have become like yesterday's news. Anyway, here are some headlines for you this morning. We've got to get to Dr. Hanan, which I know is everybody's favorite part of a Monday. So I don't want to... Hanan. Well, you got to say that properly. I mean, that's how you say it. Like, it's like your name is Miabaluma. All right, so who do you think is going to be first among the police to get the COVID-19 jab today? Well, it's going to be Police Minister Bennie Botes and Health Minister Mamaloko Kubai Ngubane, and also Commissioner Ketla Sitole. They will all go to Orlando Stadium today to get their injections. The plan is to immunize over 180,000 police people at 108 registered sites across the country as part of government's plan to give jabs to the general public, security cluster, and occupational health workplace services. There were teachers who got the jab last week. So if you're in teaching, you would have had that vaccination last week. Some teachers, not all. We're quite happy about the fact that vaccination for our police officers is starting tomorrow, said Richard Mamabolo, who is the police union Pop Cruise spokesperson. He said it's been long overdue. The vaccination of the rest of the police staff will begin on Wednesday, but they're setting the example, That's what Becky Taylor is doing. The Pope has responded well to colon surgery. Well, you can save your jokes about, colons and that kind of thing when you come to the Catholic Church. Save your jokes, because Pope Francis has undergone successful surgery to treat the colon problem that he had at a hospital in Rome. The 84-year-old, he's getting old. 84-year-old, he's responded well to the treatment. It was performed under general anesthetic. It is the first time that Pope Francis has been admitted to hospital since he was elected back in 2013. Earlier on Sunday, he addressed thousands of visitors in St. Peter's Square. In a statement, the Vatican said Pope Francis was being treated at the Gemelli University Hospital for symptomatic diverticular stenosis of the colon. It involves bulges in the walls of the large intestine. Great. All right, so there he is. The Pope's better. In case everybody is as interested in the state of his colon as you might be. And then England will move into a period without legal restrictions where the public will have to exercise personal responsibility, including on the face mask, the Housing Secretary said. This is such good news for a country that we were just talking about as a nanny state. It should be this way from the get-go. Really, people should just take personal responsibility. And if they don't, then don't get close to them if you're worried about it. And if you don't, maybe it's because you've been vaccinated, in which case you shouldn't be wearing a mask anyway. Or maybe it's because you've had it already, which is another reason you shouldn't be wearing a mask anyway. This idea that everyone should be wearing masks to protect everyone is just crazy. That's like putting what is it? It's like putting a cover over everything in case the sun burns it. It creating some huge tarpaulin over the planet Earth so that the sun doesn't burn things. Meanwhile, we lose out on the sunlight. There are all kinds of things that are happening at the moment that are very bizarre, but this is a good move. Robert Jenrick, who's the housing secretary in the UK, told the BBC the world would come to a different conclusion over masks, but he trusted people to exercise good judgment. Well, thank God This is the first time a politician said anything sensible about masks since I can remember. Just exercise your own responsibility. And if you don't have responsibility, then the rest of us can avoid you. That's the way I see it. Anyway. Flax is the only person at Cliff Central who cares about colons, says Mapelo.
He does?
Yeah. We had a long discussion with him about, I think someone in his family went for a colon operation or something like that.
Yeah.
I can't remember. Anyway. All right. So those are the three main headlines. There are other headlines about Jacob Zuma, but do you want me to pay attention to them? Because I don't think we should be.
No,
and
please don't.
When he says to the country, I will be addressing you, and he's not the president, all the news organizations should just say, well, okay, no, we're not coming to Nkandla.
Wouldn't we all like that opportunity?
The thing that bothers me about this is, again, the same thing that bothered me about the whole Matt Hancock story last week, the British health secretary who was canoodling with his girlfriend and who broke social distancing rules that he'd implemented by, what would you call it? You'd call it grinding with his secretary.
Deep-throating.
Yeah, deep-throating. So listen, the Jacob Zuma people who got together to defend him over the weekend, defend, in inverted commas, him over the weekend, if they can do that, then restaurants can open. That's my point. Really. If they can all get together, if they can rally around him, no social distancing, many of them were not wearing masks, that's fine, that's their responsibility. But at that stage, the government should be called to order, and the people who run restaurants and are trying to keep themselves and their families alive should be allowed to run their businesses. Open up the restaurant. I'll go to a restaurant today for lunch. I'm not scared. And I haven't had the vaccination, and I don't know for a fact that I've had COVID. Open up the restaurants. I'll go for a lunch today. Mbulelo, if they open up, I'll come to them today.
You know why I keep saying I am not in the business of inclusivity and everyone's opinion should matter.
Right.
Vaccines are not a cure. I hear people talking about vaccines like we're going to vaccinate and no one's ever going to get COVID again. And this is what kills me about the fact that science isn't compulsory in school. Vaccines are not a cure. I can't say that enough times. People are still going to get COVID. Like that is going to happen. All that vaccines are going to do is it's going to reduce, hopefully, how harmful the effects and symptoms are. That is all they do. We're not going to come out and no one's get COVID.
But right or wrong, this is going to be around. Like there's never going to be a zero COVID situation. COVID's never going to go away forever, right? It's never going to go away. It's going to be like the flu. It'll come back every year. So do you really want to live under these outrageous autocratic rules because there's a disease out there? If you do, you may as well just be like those people who live in a bubble. You know those crazy people who they live in an oxygen tent and they never leave it. That's how you're gonna have to be, because it's not going away.
It's all very personal, and obviously everyone should have their own opinions. I just know that I need to protect myself probably more than you guys need to, and so for that I'm more cautious.
Well, I haven't. We're not. It's not like I'm banging on your door trying to get into your house.
I wouldn't let you in.
Exactly. So just stay away from me and you'll be fine. I mean, you don't need to impose rules on everyone else. It's like, those people who say, because I don't like guns, no one should have a gun. Or because I don't want to have children, no one should be allowed to have children. Or because I don't like it when it's when I don't like people eating apples, then no one should have apples. You don't get to make rules for everybody. So Leigh-Ann is absolutely entitled. She's entitled to stay in her house and isolate herself forevermore, if that's how you want to live. If you're frightened enough of COVID and that's how you want to be, go for it. And no one's going to come and force you to integrate back into society tomorrow. That's entirely up to you.
The rest of us wouldn't say forevermore anyway. Like Mbulelo says, the vaccine.
Well, let me ask you this:
has a
when is it going to be okay for you to carry on the way that you were before? When are you going to feel good about it?
When I've had the vaccine.
Okay, so that's when you'll start to get back to
me. Yeah.
All right. Listen, we got to leave this alone. We got more important things to talk about, and it is in this vein because Dr. Hanan is the expert who joins us every week to help us with our mental health. We thought Monday mornings are a good time to kind of take stock of, your own mental health, your own psychological situation. And it's going to be okay is what we've decided to call this. Dr. Hanan Bushkin is our guest, and he is every Monday. Hey, Dr. Hanan, how are you?
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Do you have a good weekend?
Yeah, it was a power weekend. I got vaccinated on Friday, so it was a good weekend. Actually, I rebelled for a while. I was up for it a couple of months ago, and I decided I was going to wait, and Friday was the day that I decided to go, so
what made you make the decision? Because that's what I'm interested in with a lot of people.
So for a long time, I weighed up the value versus the cost of it. And it was always much more valuable for me to wait and get more data and more information. And it reached a tipping point with my mom around and my wife and the kids and the people around me that I decided I'm gonna do it. So that's what happened on Friday.
Yeah, I mean, really, the answer to that, if anyone does ask you if you're vaccinated or not, is to just tell them it's none of your business. So I'm glad you answered mine, but you don't have to. All right, so Dr. Hanan, let's talk about something that I think a lot of us are struggling with at the moment. It seems that every day we hear about someone we know that's either died or is in hospital. And lately it is mostly COVID related. Our social media is full of rest in peace messages. There are messages praying for people, hope, support. Someone's in ICU. These are our friends, our family members, and often our colleagues. And then there are also suicides, which are a consequence of this. Now, earlier this year, the New York Times published an article claiming that for each person who dies from COVID-19, there are 9 newly bereaved people, and that America is facing a grief crisis. Now, do you think South Africa is headed the same way? Because we've been in similar waters before with HIV/AIDS. Do we as a nation have the potential grief pandemic that the Americans do? And how do we deal with this on an individual level? How do we deal with overwhelmingly and seemingly endless cycles of loss on a personal level? How do you think we can start to cope with this and grapple with this?
So grief is so difficult to deal with. Well, the definition of grief is when your world goes from A to B and your head and heart don't have time to make sense of it. So your world changes and your head can kind of go, well, I can see what happened, but your heart's not willing to accept it. We are all addicted to familiarity, so we all want to hold on to what it was as opposed to accept what it is. And grief is that a process of going from what it was to eventual acceptance of what it is. And people don't want to do that. And I understand, when you lose a person that represented something in your life, you lose a person that took up space in your life. When that person is gone, your brain goes, I don't like this new world, because it is a brand new world. And grief is one of those things where there's no rationale to making sense of things. You have to go through it. So to get to it, you got to go through it. It's actually the most taxing thing that I can see in my practice, because usually when it comes to any disorder, you can help people make sense of things, and then they leave your office and they feel really good because you've just gone 1 + 1 = 2, and they feel, okay, I get it. That makes sense to me. I feel empowered. But with grief, what's the explanation? Even if you have somebody that's super religious and they really make sense of it according to their own Bible and their own religion, it's still, they leave the office and go, this doesn't make sense to me. This is really, really painful. And we're going through not only a pandemic in terms of this crazy disease, but we're going through a pandemic in terms of this crazy loss. We all know somebody that by name now, that he's gone, that he's no longer with us, that he's in hospital, that he's left or whatever. And it's incredibly challenging to make sense of it. But again, it's not about making sense of this. It's about going through it and eventually accepting what it is. The biggest mistake that people make when they go through grief is they don't allow themselves to move on. People say, well, time heals everything. And it's not the time that heals. It's what you do with that time that heals. I know people that have been through grief for 20, 30, 40 years that are still not over it. that are still not over it.
No, okay, that's useful. I mean, to know, but when you say what they do with the time, what do you actually mean? Do you have to? Are there exercises? Is there a workshop? Is there a way that you can fill your day with things that will make that grief more bearable for the person who's been through it? And then the follow up to that is, how do the rest of us make a meaningful contribution? Because my problem is, I'm not the world's most empathetic person. I try to be compassionate. Those two are different things. But the fact is, I don't know how I can help. And if I don't have a way to help you, I feel pretty useless as well. So I'm not sure what to do. People say, just listen. Right. People say, just listen. I'm like, well, what good is that going to do?
Yeah.
What do I do with that? I mean,
so I'll answer it in two ways. Number one, again, the acceptance eventually happens as you live out what it is, as opposed to hold on to what no longer exists, what you wish it was. So what people do is they kind of cover themselves with a duvet and withdraw from the world and hope that they eventually will accept what it is. But no, what you're doing is you're hiding from the reality of what it is. You have to live your life. And I need to say that is the most difficult thing to do. Well, you don't know this, but I lost my dad 2 years ago, just a little bit over 2 years ago. My dad passed away at 64 years old of a sudden heart attack. And I've got all the knowledge in the world. I'm not over it. And I'll never get over it. And the truth is, when I say to people, live out what it is, I'm saying live out what it is, but it's the most difficult thing that you could do. It's not easy. And will somebody get over it? Well, some people get over it a minute later, depending on the relationship. And some people never get over it. But the reality, a friend of mine said to me, Hanan, how does it feel losing your dad? And people that have gone through loss understand this. It feels like your world goes from 3D, ultra beautiful, colorful life to suddenly going black and white. And the interesting thing is that you don't even want it to go back to ultra 3D. You want to leave it as black and white. You just don't want to accept the beauty or the color or the good stuff. But as you live out your life in terms of what it is, still be the father that you are, still be the partner that you are, still be the friend that you are, still be the worker that you are, still be the person that you are currently. It's amazing what happens to your brain is it starts to adjust and accept. I always give the analogy of bungee jumping. If people go, well, let me just feel like it and then I'll do it, well, people will then never do it. What you have to do is jump and jump and jump and jump and jump and jump and jump. And after 10, 20, 30, 40 times, now your heart follows your head. Now your heart follows. It's never the head, then the heart. It's always behavior, then the heart follows. So live your life in terms of what it is. And to answer your question, Gareth, what can we do for people that are grieving? Give them what they need. Give them what they need. I remember when I was mourning my dad, people were coming, sitting next to me, giving me the biggest stories and the biggest lessons. And I was like, just fuck off. That's not what I need. I don't need that. I just actually need somebody to sit next to me and cry with me. That's what I needed. And I'm not saying, by the way, that everybody needs that, but give the person what they need in that moment, not what you think they need.
But sometimes they need something and they don't articulate it because they're not sure they need that. And then sometimes what they want isn't what they need.
Completely. You have to sit down and sometimes you have to become a little bit of a detective. So you give them comfort by not saying anything, and they will let you know whether that's enough or not. And if it's not enough, then you try something else. Maybe they need some practical measures. Maybe they need you to make them lunch. Maybe they need you to bring them groceries. Maybe they need touch. Maybe they need an explanation. Maybe they need for you to sit down and cry with them. But sit down and they will let you know whether what you're giving them is what they're actually fishing for.
Sure. With all of this going on, it is very difficult to deal with an overload of emotion. And obviously, COVID has been a particularly strange situation, but loss is part of human life. It's part of what we all have to go through. And I don't want to be too practical about this, but we also have to accept that we don't live forever and that life isn't safe You know, all these people running around with "stay safe" as their motto, but that's not what life is. Life is not safe. Existence is not safe, not for any creature or any plant that has ever existed. We're all there for a very short time, and safety, looking for a way to keep things as cosseted as possible is no way to live either, right?
No, you can't live in your comfort zone. That's merely just existing. It's not living. Nobody is very proud of kind of staying in their comfort zone and not experiencing and doing and creating and achieving. Nobody ever gets to 120 years old and goes, well, I'm glad I stayed in my comfort zone. People go, well, I'm glad I stepped out. But loss is one of those things that you can't read about and become an expert on. And when it happens, you're like, oh, I've studied this. It doesn't work that way. You know, you can, you know, so people ask me, Hanan, what's better, when somebody passes away unexpectedly or when somebody is sick for a long period of time? And so you get to actually say goodbye because you know what to expect. And I want to tell you, in my practice, they're both as devastating. They're both as devastating because even if you kind of prepare for a person's passing and you have months or weeks or however long, even years to say goodbye, when it happens, your brain goes, I don't like this. This is brand new. I'm used to the jungle. Now I'm in the desert and the rules have changed and I don't like it. So there's no preparing for it, even though it is, of course, part and parcel of life. You know, what do you explain to your kids? My 6-year-old asked me yesterday in the car, says, Dad, does anybody live forever? And I said, no. He said, can somebody live to 200 years old? I said, no. How do you explain even to kids the concept of loss? It's a very difficult thing for a kid to understand, certainly for an adult to accept.
Yeah. Leigh-Ann, you've also, I mean, everybody's dealt with a huge amount of loss. But when you come to dealing with it, do you have any kind of useful advice as to what to tell people if they're going through it? Because, or what to do with that thing that Dr. Hanan says is what they need?
Yeah. I think what's been interesting for me is to experience a loss in the family and then see how the different family members deal with it. And that for me has given me such perspective on how different people deal with grief. Just within one family, you can see, let's call it the 9 people who've been affected by the loss, behave so differently. So if it's that vast, I mean, I'm so much alike my brother, yet we react so differently in these situations. How do you even start as a human being with finding a good way of helping someone? It's really difficult because the situation is so individual. But that, giving the person what they need is really important. And I think it becomes difficult where the person has been in this phase of grief for, like you say, Dr. Hanan, decades. You know, it's so easy to lose. It's so easy to lose patience with these people, and especially as a family member, and to say, well, if they're not going to pull themselves out of it, then I actually don't know what more to do.
It's terrible because they get stuck, Leigh-Ann, and you know, they say there's the whole concept of process of grief or stages of grief. I don't know if you've heard of it, but people say you go through a couple of stages. You start with shock, then you go to denial, then I can't believe it, and you go to bargaining. Only if I did this, the person will come back. Then you go to anger, then you go to guilt. I feel so bad. Then you go to depression, and then you eventually finish at acceptance. And the mistake that people make is they think that it's linear. You go from stage 1 to stage 2 to stage 3, and eventually we get to acceptance. But what you have to accept is that these stages do this. Sometimes you go from 1 to 7 to 2 to 3 to 1 to 7 in a split second. So you might meet somebody that goes, and you meet them and you go, oh my God, they're so jovial, they're so happy, they must have accepted it. 2 minutes later, they're bawling their eyes out, crying because their brain goes, I still don't like it. And that's okay. And that's okay. You know, we have this misconception that healing means that we are just happy, full stop. No, we are broken human beings. That's the way it works. We are born into this world, a perfect puzzle piece, and life fucks us up in all different funny ways. That's life. We never go back to being whole again. It doesn't exist. So even the notion of be whole so you can meet somebody whole, be healthy so you can meet somebody healthy, where the fuck did you read that? Who told you that?
Yeah.
We never get to a point where we whole. It's such shit.
Some motivational speakers selling books with that nonsense in it, right?
Completely, yeah. Be whole so you can meet somebody who's whole. Show me one person that's whole, that's a complete person. It doesn't exist. Maybe on your Instagram feed, maybe, but in real life, it doesn't work that way. We are dented in funky ways, in funny ways, and how we manage it and how we play it and how we engage people with that brokenness is what makes you healthy or unhealthy, period.
Yeah, listen, there's some interesting stories coming up in the messages. I just want your reaction to one or two of these before we wrap this up this morning. First of all, Audrey says, Dr. Hanan, your video, it's going to be okay because the alternative is not acceptable, made an impact. That's very nice. This is interesting too. You never get over it, but you need to move on, says Steph. I think that's more or less in line with what you've just said now. Tracy agreeing, saying giving someone what they need instead of what they want, that is where the healing lies. And then in inverted commas, Steph says that you need to be strong speech. That doesn't often help. Like sometimes you're trying to be compassionate, but you actually make it worse by talking nonsense. And then you irritate the person because if they can change from grief to anger in a second, they will, right? Because anger is much more, you can deal with anger a lot quicker than you can.
Completely, and it creates a reaction for sure. No, and telling somebody to be strong, I mean, when somebody said to, when I was grieving, when somebody says, be strong, what does it mean? Must I get down and do 3 push-ups? What does it mean, get strong? What does it mean? Like, it doesn't make sense. Instead of saying to somebody, be strong, you should actually today, if you know somebody that's grieving, ask, what can I do for you to make this better for you?
Right.
Yeah, and I mean, like, what does be strong mean? Does it mean stop crying? And also we have to remember that the people around us, when we're going through grief or vice versa, they're uncomfortable with our grief because they don't know how to deal with it. All they want to do is for you to stop crying and to feel okay. It comes from a place of love, but it also comes from a place of immense discomfort.
I notice, Mbulelo, you've said nothing throughout here. Is that because you are not the person we should call on when we're going through grief?
Possibly.
Yeah, I think I've made it's an interesting one for me. I lost someone for 30 years that I knew. He was literally probably my second friend when I moved to Johannesburg a couple of weeks ago or a couple of months ago. And I'm still not sure how to feel about it. And it's like, people want me to feel a certain way, but I'm like, oh, well, this is awful. I mean, I'm still grieving in my own way, but he's gone forever. Like, what must I do? I don't know how to react. People want me to react like I'm not crying about it. So what? Am I not feeling it like you? So it's a tricky one for me because I don't defer to, I don't know, the emotional side in this type of thing. It's awful for me in my alone time when I think about him. But
yeah, you're much more stoic and practical.
And I'm not a tough guy. The other thing is I'm not a tough guy. I don't like to come or pretend I'm a tough guy. I'm really not. I know some tough people. It's death is tough because forever is a long time. It's a really, really long time. So, I have my own way of dealing with it, and as I grow, I think.
Do you feel people are actually disappointed in you that you're not wailing like a banshee?
I know that 2 people in particular, because I'm just like, I'm moving on. The guy's gone forever. It's awful. I knew nobody like him in my entire life, but he's gone. Well, what can I do? There's nothing I can do to bring him back. I'm not religious. The guy's gone. What do you want? How do you want me to feel? Do I feel sad? Yes. Do I feel broken? Yes. But I still have to go to work tomorrow. I still have to be a son to my mother. I still have to be a brother to my sister and a friend to my beloved that are.
Yeah, and that's the healing. That's the healing part. Moving forward and living life with what it is, as opposed to holding on to what you wish it would be. That's healing.
And I don't want to be insensitive, Dr. Hanan. I understand we all deal with forever again is a long time, and the connection I had to this person was deep. I don't want to be insensitive and say I'm right. I'm just saying it's right for me. So and I'm not an empath, so I'm not the guy, Gareth. Do not come to me for empathy. I'm afraid.
Yeah, and some of us are better at that than others, right? Okay, Dr. Hanan, that's all we got time for this week. But I do think we've just scratched the surface with this one too, because there's a lot of stuff to talk about here, and
Sure.
people are going through some pretty wild stuff at the moment, and we need all the help we can get to navigate our way out.
Great.
Thanks very much.
Nice to see you guys.
All right, good to see you too. We'll see you in a week's time. There we go, Dr. Hanan Bushkin, and a look at something that I think many people are struggling with right now. So there we go.
He's excellent.
All right. Yeah, he's so good. So what we've got in the next hour is another excellent thing. We've got Collectomania coming up, but plenty of other good stuff too. We've got some news, things that are on the agenda for this the next hour, and we've got plenty to talk about too. If you've got any suggestions, you can let us know. Just get hold of us on Cliff Central's live YouTube. You can just drop us a comment there. You can also send a message to the WhatsApp line if you wanted. That's 0797482090. And you can email us, Gareth@cliffcentral.com. And if you're listening to us on podcast, obviously we're not doing the show then live. So, you just send us an email for the next day and we'll get to the problem.
Make the mental adjustments.
There we go. I mean, all of this is, you're living in another dimension, then just we'll fit in with you. Just get hold of us over there.
Hi guys, I'm Timothy Maurice, the host of the Brain and Brand Show, and I'm excited to launch a 3-part series on the new phenomenal book called Noise, A Flaw in Human Judgment by Daniel Kahneman, Olivier Saboni, and Cass R. Sunstein. You'll be inspired to understand how the external influences such as time of day, weather, whether or not your sports team won or lost, impacts decision making. You're going to enjoy this series. Download it on cliffcentral.com, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This week on Auto Central.
Next question comes from Wei, who's asking residual or not. So my interest rate is 6.57 and the residual is 40%. Is that better than an interest rate of 8.8 with no residual with a 50K deposit?
So now you gave me a heads up that that you were going to ask me this question, Wendy. And so what I did was I went and did a little bit of maths. So what I did was I sketched out two scenarios, Way. Catch Auto Central, SA's #1 motoring podcast, every Monday at 9 a.m.
Right, we are back, cliffcentral.com on a Monday morning, and we are well into the month of July. It's chilly, it is cold, the trees do not have any leaves on, people are not enjoying waking up super early, and it's mostly miserable during the day. But there are those, because we live in a country with a hot sun, that's the way I think of it anyway, there are those moments in the day where you could sit outside and you're like, wow, I'm actually getting quite warm, like t-shirt weather, even though it's the middle of winter. Not the end of the world. All right. So lots and lots of people with lots and lots to talk about today. We've got a couple of things on the agenda, and we want to know what you're up to as well. So if you've got something in your mind, let us know. Apparently, Leigh-Ann has some interesting research for us. This is a neurologist and an epidemiologist who got together and explained how our social lives and our mental health are tied to our listening habits. So I thought this is interesting because this has to do with what we were just talking to Dr. Hanan about, our general mental health and, kind of the changes that have been wrought because of the pandemic. And because we're a medium that you listen to, many people listen to our show every day. I'm wondering if we're affecting people positively, if we could be doing more, or if we may be affecting people negatively. And this is an interesting bit of research. So what did they say?
So I think what's really amazing is that, I don't know if you've noticed in your own capacity whether your music and listening habits have changed since a year and a half ago. So did the type of music you were listening to when COVID first hit and things felt really morbid, did the type of music you listened to change? And that's what these researchers have picked up, that people's listening habits did change during COVID. They may not have wanted to listen to bright and happy songs. Yeah. They may have been the opposite. They may have finally got into the Grateful Dead, or they may have started getting into jazz. But there was definitely a shift in what we were listening to. And of course, there were a lot more people turning to podcasts. All of a sudden, you had your days open and you were working from home and you were able to listen to what you wanted to. And people were often searching for more information and deeper information than that which we were just getting from the news. People wanted to hear opinions. They were craving that. And, especially overseas where things are looking a lot brighter than they are in South Africa in terms of COVID and where they are with vaccines coming in, people are feeling happy again. They're starting to socialize. They're listening to happier music. They're, the playlists.
Have you experienced this? I mean, can you say that that's happened to you?
Yeah, definitely. There were times when I didn't feel like listening to music at all because music felt so unimportant compared to what we were going through.
What was going on,
yeah. I wanted to rather spend my time either watching a video that gave me more insight, or instead of just listening to background music. So I just think that's really interesting.
Before you answer, Mbulelo, I don't really. I'm not a big music listener. I listen to music usually when I'm in a good mood, which is much of the time, but when I don't have something else to listen to. And I prioritize podcasting because I've been a podcast listener for 12, maybe even 14 years. So that's what I do. And that's how I find out about the world. And I've got a long playlist of many different shows that I listen to from all over the world. And that's what fills me in. Sometimes they're interview shows. Sometimes they're about current affairs. Sometimes they're opinion shows. Sometimes they're just, like not drama, but they're like documentary style. And there's some really, really great podcasts out there. I don't run out of those easily. When I do, then I'll listen to some music. But usually music I'll listen to, on a Friday when I'm coming back from the shops, or if I'm excited on my way to something which hasn't happened, for a little bit because of lockdown, obviously. But if I'm going to see friends or if I'm going to do something, then I'll listen to music. And when I'm with people, I'll listen to music. But on my own, podcasting. And I think that just like good music, in terms of music that makes you happy is important for you because it lifts the spirits. A podcast that is giving you really useful and interesting information or that fills you up with inspiration is very important. It's as important as good music, if not more, because we need to have those messages at a time where many people are feeling a little bit vulnerable, feeling a little bit weak, they're feeling a little bit unsure. And a podcast to me is like talking to a good friend. So even though it's a it's a one-way communication in some ways. I mean, we read our messages on the air, and we talk to people. We have people join us on the show from time to time who are listening from all over the world. But it is a way for me to just check in with a sensible friend too, to check how I'm doing.
I think what's also interesting is how, a lot of people, if they're feeling down, they want to play happy music to get themselves out of it. Whereas others embrace their feeling downness.
Yeah, they like
and
it.
Will listen to more somber music.
Sure.
Yeah. But I bet you
vibe a little bit, you want to kind of dwell in that space a bit.
But I bet you if you look back to when it really did feel like the world was coming to an end and all of this was so new to us, there couldn't be one piece of music that would make everyone feel better. And I think it must have been quite hard for especially music creators, and we know that it's been tough for them. But to get into the mindset of creating happy music about booties and sex and fun, that must have been really hard for them.
That's where the Kifnesses song with the cat really. That's where I found that most useful. The Kifnesses song with the cat was for me the perfect lockdown song.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
And the Kifnes continue to that's one account I love following on TikTok, because he'll do duets. They're called duets on TikTok, with maybe a howling dog, and he'll make up the background music for that. But it just shows his relevance and how he's embracing what's happening in people's homes at the moment and using that as a creative outlet for himself.
Sure.
Leigh-Ann, every time I speak to you, it's such an interesting experience to see how far apart we are as people. Because, for me, to be quite frank, nothing's changed because of lockdown, because of my personality type. It's that, I'm a number one. I 4 years ago, I saw a sleep specialist, and we really got into the depths of what we call our circadian rhythm, which is essentially just your day, your 24-hour cycle. And she changed my mindset to that is reprogrammable. And she's one of the leading neuroscientists in the world. And I'm fortunate enough to know her. And that actually really helped me, that advice coming into this, along with something else, which I've been a proponent of for the last sort of 7-8 years, is the world is infinitely easier on those that are hard on themselves. So I'm always hard on myself. So when the world... So when the world got hard, nothing's changed for me. So my listening habits haven't changed because I kind of listen to the same.
What do you listen to?
So some of the motivational stuff you hate, of course. I listen to a lot of that. I listen to a lot of podcasts. Sport is a big part. I listen to a lot of sports podcasts, but a lot of science and sort of neuroscience stuff is probably 70 to 80% of my listening, I would say.
Wow. God, that's horrible. Carl says, the reason I don't listen to podcasts is that I have no time. When I'm working, I can't concentrate with the podcast on while I'm working. Yes, no, look, that's true for me too. What I'm talking about is like when I'm, tidying up around the house or I'm doing exercise, then I can listen to podcasts because your mind can do something while your body's doing something else. You can walk and chew up at the same time. But if I'm typing up an email, or I'm responding, or I'm looking at a contract, or I'm in a meeting, then obviously I can't listen to podcast, so you've got to just pause it and then pick it up later on. But if you're outside, if you're taking, the dog for a walk or whatever, then you can listen. It's nice to have the earphones in and you kind of have something to keep your brain busy while you're actually doing something to get your body up to great.
I completely,
So sorry, I just wanted to say for Carl and other people who are interested in whether you're the type of person whose brain is attuned to listen and work, whether you can actually figure this out through, there are scientific tools. If anybody's interested, a podcast called Andrew Huberman is a really interesting neuroscientist, and he goes through all of this. So some very interesting scientific tools. Huberman.
Just like we share good tips on great shows on Netflix and so on, we also share good podcasts on here, and that's always useful. So if you have any suggestions, let us know about that. Derek says he loves listening to podcasts while he works.
Sure. I can't even listen to music when I work.
You can't? Yeah, I can't do that
No.
either. Unless I'm painting or doing something artistic or creative, then I can. That's different because then it's in the background. It's not really something you're focused on.
Being a musical person, I listen too intently to, some people get distracted by lyrics. I'm not distracted by lyrics, but I'm distracted by the actual music and the musicality and the instruments.
Okay.
So I definitely can't listen to music while I'm working. That's been the one thing that's quite great about not being in a shared office space, is that, I can't deal with all those distractions. So that's been great.
This phenomenon started in the late 90s, and it's continued. If anything, it's grown. This phenomenon of people in offices who wear headphones.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not talking about an office like ours at Cliff Central, where obviously we're dealing with audio. So people are often editing audio, and that's why they've got headphones on. But there are lots of people who go to the office and they seal themselves off in audio terms from the world. Now, that's fine, and I think it's really good if you're productive and you can do that. That's excellent. But is there anything more frustrating than having to shout at someone or having to go to their desk because they can't hear you because they've got earphones on? Like I saw in this one ad agency that I was at, this is probably about 2 or 3 years ago, there was someone sitting on their headphones like doing this while the rest of us were having a meeting in the room next door. And I was like, that's not fair. He looks like he's having more fun than we do. I was a jealous, angry person because he was having more fun than we were. So that's one thing that you have to deal with, I suppose.
I'm looking at Annette's comment where she says, I can't listen to anything when driving in a hailstorm or looking for parking. My mom used to be like that when she was driving. She turned the music down when she was looking for parking, and I would tease her and turn it back up and say, it's not affecting your arms or your feet. And yet I found myself doing exactly the same thing decades later.
Woody says, I process claims for payment, and any music with a fast tempo helps me to work faster. Well, as long as you don't get it wrong, Woody, because that would be a disaster. Monica says, as a florist, this past week, I've only had orders for condolences and funerals. I'm still working to a lot of Doja Cat, shaking my ass. That's good. Winsterian Pikachu says, I'm busy working and listening to you, but yes, I agree. When I need to fully concentrate, I do not pay attention to the podcast, but it will still play. I have to pause it, hey? I can't let it carry on in the background. You guys have been my favorite part of lockdown. Started listening religiously, says Bridget. I'm always shocked at how quickly the morning goes. It never seems long enough. Well, that's great news. Thank you. I mean, that means the world to us, because I often wonder, that's part of what we want to achieve on the show, especially now going forward. It's like, find ways to make people's lives really good, to try and find ways to help you to improve things, not just to sit and be entertained. Entertainment is good, and hopefully we still do that in bucket loads. But I think that the idea of empowering and inspiring people is a lot more attractive to me right now. So if we can find ways to, whether it's something stupid like sharing a podcast like Mbulelo did just now, another podcast that could help you in a particular way, that's useful. I like that. If we can have people on who have interesting ideas that make you think differently, that improve your understanding of the world, that's the kind of thing I want us to do. We've got a big agenda item in terms of like making the show practical and useful going forward. Danny says, I once listened to a supplier. I once answered to a supplier that an invoice would be paid by the end of the world. Wrong song. When the lyrics of that's great. Yeah. Corona's Boring says, you can't hear the people scream when the music is loud while you're parking.
Is that the people you run over?
That's a good point. I don't get people who run or walk on the street with headphones on. I'm so nervous they won't hear what's going on around them. Yeah, if you are in traffic, I don't know how you can do headphones. Man, that's really, because you don't hear the screeching of brakes or someone hooting or
or just someone walking behind you, whether they're the killer or not. I still get a fright if someone appears into my vision and I haven't heard them coming,
Oh, hell yes. But that's also about paying attention to what's going on around you. Just generally, there's some people who are just completely blissfully unaware of everything going around them. They don't even need headphones on to be like that. They're just in their own world every moment of the day. They're looking around like this, and you see them all over the place. They walk straight into the road, and then cars are swerving to miss them. It happens. Happens every day.
About these monsters who drive with earphones in. I don't know if you've ever seen these people who are actually the pandemic. People are driving with earphones in. I don't know if you've seen before.
But so why? When you have a car system?
I want to jump into their car and slap them right through their face.
All right, listen, it's not the 1980s or 90s anymore where you have those detachable radio faces because people were stealing car radios. No one does that anymore, right? No one's selling and stealing car radios to the degree that they used to in the 90s and the 2000s, early 2000s. So every car has some kind of Bluetooth connection, and they've got speakers in them. Why would you need earphones or headphones in a car? Can someone explain that to me?
But Mbulelo, what is the difference between someone listening to something on their headphones and playing a death metal song at full ball where they can't hear surrounding sounds anyway?
No, I think I do agree with you, especially once you get into the fact that all of the audio sensory is linked in the nervous system. So your hearing, sight, if you see something scary, generally your senses are adjusting at all times. Everything is running through the central nervous system. So actually, your mom turning down the music, it's a real thing in the central nervous system. That's not just.
I sometimes have to turn things off around me to concentrate. Like if there's a TV on, or I don't like too much sensory stimulation. It's funny on this show. That's one place that you could fire 100 different things at me. I mean, like I can have someone speaking in my ear. Like I used to have producers talking in my ear. I can be listening to the caller. I can have a screen in front of me, another screen, a TV screen, and it's not too much. But that's also because I know that environment. If you did that to me in a car, I'd have to just stop. I'd have to put the hazards on and just stop, like those stupid people in traffic who don't know what to do.
Yeah, I have a huge problem with having a conversation while the TV's on. Oh, drives me crazy. When my brother went to go and fetch this dog that he has, we went to these people's home, and they had two TVs on different channels. One was playing in the room where we were sitting.
Horrible.
And that you can see, they just leave them on all day. I can't handle that, man.
Well, here's an answer, potentially an answer for your question, Mbulelo. Lol, I still have a car with a radio without Bluetooth, and the engine is so loud that I can't hear podcast play on my phone. So maybe I mean using earphones or headphones. Kerry says sometimes my Bluetooth doesn't pair on those occasions. I use my headset, as you can't listen to podcast with the road noise. Okay, fair enough.
Well, just from a practical standpoint, is that for me, if you're doing this in your house, that's cool, because if you're distracted, what do? You stub your toe on the table. In a car, if you're not absolutely aware at all times,
right,
there's a little girl in the other car who's maybe going to lose her life because you need to hear what the latest makeup in Taiwan is.
Well, this is an interesting point about people on motorbikes. You just become more aware of your surroundings using other senses. I used to ride my motorbike with earphones. It increases my focus. Plus, it's very common for bikers to have earplugs while they're riding. Okay. All right. Why do people in new cars hold their phones while they're driving?
Why are you on your phone while you're driving?
I mean, listen, if you're in a shit old car, then maybe it makes more sense. But these days, all the cars are connected, right? So you don't need to press anything on the screen. But a lot of people are like WhatsApping while they drive. I see it all the time. I see people doing this. And again, I'm not going to say, we must make a rule that you should be arrested if you're doing that. It's not advisable, obviously, and it's just not great for the rest of us on the road because you think you can handle it, but then something goes wrong.
Nothing worse.
Yeah.
Nothing worse than I'm running and I see the yuppie lady in her big SUV and she's on her phone, and then she makes the mistake of making the mistake of pulling in the road while I'm running. I'm the guy who's going, I go up to your window, get off your phone. I'm not the guy who's going to let it go. No, you need to. And I'm the finger guy. Get off your phone.
Dude,
Cindy.
Some of those people are crazy, and then they blame you.
Oh yeah.
They get cross with you. Their default reaction is to go right back at you, and meanwhile they are in the wrong.
Yeah, no, and I'm not about that. Get off your phone. Get off your phone. You nearly killed me with your car, which your husband probably paid for. Get off your phone.
Oh God, this is funny. Bridget says, I love how everyone is explaining why they wear the headphones. Like sometimes I forget to take my mask off and I think, Jesus, I hope Gareth and Mbulelo didn't see me. How embarrassing.
Yeah, I'll often drive past pedestrians who are near no one with their mask and I think, oh, Gareth would hate that.
No, listen, I'm still not, I've never been used to these masks. Hey, as soon as I get into the car, it comes off. It's
yeah, I'm the same. There's
never been a moment where I've had it on for more than I absolutely had to have it on for. It comes off immediately.
Yeah, me too. I still find myself entering a shop and people looking at me quizzically because I don't have a mask on because I've forgotten. I'm still not used to it.
Speaking about this, I walk everywhere, and I was walking to the shops, and this gentleman came up to me because when I'm not around anybody, I pull my mask down, like there's no one around me. So he comes up to me and goes, "Why is your mask not on?" And I pulled it up because I could see him kind of walking towards me, and I'm like, "What are you talking about? There is literally nobody around." No, keep your mask. It's like, get the hell out of my face.
He wants you to keep it on the whole time.
Yeah, I'm walking by myself in the middle of the road, and there's basically nobody on the roads now. And he's coming to get upset with me. There isn't anybody as far as the eye can see. And what he wants to come and be Jesus Christ with me. I nearly elbowed him in the jugular.
If I've learned anything about this whole, if the mask thing has done us any favors, it is that we've immediately been able to distinguish the kind of people that we really don't need to see any more of. If it's taught me anything, it's like you don't need to be all around these people all the time. There's some people you absolutely can tell who to avoid. The people who are driving with their masks on their own in the car.
I don't understand.
Who are wearing it while they run. Those people who are wearing it while they're walking far away from everyone else. Stay away from those people. They're morons.
No, because then you don't actually understand how masks work. So yeah,
stay away from those people. Are fucking dangerous. They're the kind of people that bad things will happen to you if you're around them.
I used to live by, and I don't want to. Quite frankly, I'm not interested in 95% of the world, and I'm not just being glib. Yeah, sure. But now it is 99%. I knew I was right. People always used to say I was a douchebag, and I said, "Damn right I am." But I've changed the number. It's now 99% of the world. I am not interested after seeing the way people have operated in this. No, thank you. I'm interested in 1% of the world. The rest of you, I'll respect you. Auf Wiedersehen.
Yeah, I think that's it's helped me. It's like you just narrow the field. Just one quick thing before we go to Collectomania, because I'm really excited about this morning's Collectomania. We've got a brand new guest, and we're going to speak to Bennie in a moment about what he collects. But before that, I don't know if you've seen this new thing that Apple are doing. It's called, for God's sake, what is it called? It's like a new kind of listening that they've got. It's like a new. It's almost like a surround sound, but it's better. They've made the sound feel like it's coming from above and below you. It's amazing. You could do this with headphones, but it really does feel different. So they've taken songs now and they've redone them with this new sort of listening system of theirs, and it's really cool. Like somebody sent me a version of it the other day, and I listened to it, and you can hear a difference. There's definitely a difference. I'm trying to find what it's called now because it's driving me crazy. If you know what it is, then let us know.
I've got a hint of what you're talking about. So, Gareth, I sent you a documentary which I was a part of about 2 years ago, and we edited that with a guy who does sort of all of the big Hollywood stuff, and he does a lot of posts for Hollywood. And it's called 3D sound, and I don't know if this is the same thing.
Yeah. It's possibly something like that. I don't know what it's really called, but that's the idea.
Yeah. So whenever I do send the documentary, I do urge people to watch with headphones or great sound because it's actually edited in 3D. So you're going to get the full effect if you've got proper sound. And it's an incredible experience because we were in his studio and he I mean, it is the most outrageous thing you could ever do.
It's called spatial audio. That's what
Spatial
it's called on Apple Music. It's spatial audio, and I mean I can't play any of it for you because you need
Well, it
to
won't
actually
work that way.
yeah, you'll need to listen to it with, and you have to have headphones on. It's the only way to do it, because even in a really beautifully arranged, 3D sound studio or your auditorium in your home cinema, if you're rich enough to have one of those, it's not as good as it comes from different parts of your surroundings. It's incredible how they do it. I don't know exactly how it works, but man, it's amazing. All right, let's get into collectomania for this morning. We got lots to talk about today. So if you suffer from collectivism like I do, then you'll know you could be some kind of obsessive devotee to stuff. And we've spoken to such interesting people over the last couple of weeks. I mean, really, there hasn't been one of them that I've thought, ugh, that's boring. And I don't think today's is going to be boring either. I'm really excited to speak to Bennie. So Bennie collects something called Franklin Mint dolls. So let me introduce him to you quickly. Here's Bennie Botes. How's it, Bennie? How you doing, dude?
Hi, Gareth. I'm good, and you? Can you hear me?
Can hear you loud and clear. How's it, man? Sorry.
Okay, good.
So Bennie, yeah, it's nice to see you. First of all, that's a very interesting house you live in. It looks very classical and it looks like something from like the 1800s. Where are you?
I'm in my house currently. I've got this love affair with French antiques and the French look and feel. So this is my other hobby, apart from the Franklin Mint. Yeah.
All right. Well, listen. Let's talk about what is the Franklin Mint. I don't even know what that is. Is that a business? Is that something that is it a shop? What is Franklin Mint?
So, Gareth, this is a company in America that makes like replica models from either famous people like Marilyn Monroe, Princess Diana.
Wow.
Even movie stars like Kate Winslet, Elvis Presley. And then they also have these things that they call like die-cast cars, like the mini scale car. Yeah. So they used to have quite a variety of product, but lately I think they are struggling because lately the products has become very like watered down and not so exciting as it used to be. But yeah, back in the day they were like quite big. Most of the items you can now only get secondhand on eBay. There's very limited ranges on their website.
All right, so Bennie, I mean, first of all, everybody has a way they started collecting this stuff. So how did it begin for you to collect these Franklin Mint dolls? Where did it all start for you?
Gareth, I grew up on a farm, and so back in the day, I wasn't really into farming. I'm more into clothing, into models, into window dressing, fashion designing, and I grew up with social media of Princess Diana in our home, like on magazines, front pages. I mean, she was on the news 24/7, and I always thought, this is a beautiful lady, such a beautiful image, and my collecting actually started in 1992. It's a very soppy story. Back in the day, Mnet used to do this royal festival programs in the month of July because her birthday was on the 1st of July. And they would broadcast these documentaries about her. Yeah. And the one that I looked at that time was something called Diana, Model Princess, about her clothes. And after that documentary, I mean, I still used to record it on a VHS tape. There wasn't like DVDs and things like that.
Those were the days.
Yeah. And then I was hooked, and then my collection started.
So Bennie, I wasn't going to say anything, but this is the first episode after the 1st of July, and we saved you for the Princess Diana Memorial Week, which is the reason we have you today. So let's look at these.
I thought so.
Yeah, of course. No, nothing's by coincidence. So let's look at these dolls that you collect. Are you only interested in the Princess Diana ones, or do you have others as well?
Only Princess Diana, Gareth, at the moment.
Okay. The others just not your thing. So here's Princess. Here, look at these. First of all,
Wow.
really, they do look like her. So are they made of what, plastic? So they're like figurines.
So Gareth, there are two types. There's a vinyl range. So those three are from the vinyl range. They were made in like a Barbie doll figure.
Right.
They're not as small as a Barbie doll. Those are about 16 inches tall. And what the Mint also did, you could buy one, and there was a whole clothing range for them, like little ensembles. So you could, if you wanted, you could buy one doll, and then you could have bought the dresses separately.
Okay.
But if you're a serious collector, then you obviously want the doll as well. Yeah. So I ended up buying the doll.
These are not toys. Like these are not like Barbie doll expensive. These are much more expensive.
No, much more expensive. Those ones, when they came out, retailed for about between 2,000 and 3,000 rand. Currently on eBay, the prices differ. I mean, you can pick them up from 1,500 up to 3,000. And then you get the limited editions that were like 100 made worldwide. Last month, one went for 40,000. I don't own it yet, but I'm searching for one.
and you'd pay 40 grand for one like that.
Gareth? Yes, I would.
Okay. Hey, see, this is the thing with us collectors. I get you. All right, what is this one? This is a famous Princess Diana dress. Didn't she wear this for some? Because I've seen pictures of her wearing this. What is this?
Yeah. So this was the first Franklin Mint doll that came out. So there was about 2,000 made of them worldwide. It's made out of porcelain. She wore that gown for the first time on a visit in Hong Kong in 1989. And it was actually dubbed the Elvis dress because of the collar of the bolero standing up like an Elvis outfit.
Right.
Yeah. So that was the very first doll that came out from the Franklin Mint.
Well, I mean, listen, Leigh-Ann will remember some of these because she's also a big Princess Di fan, right, Leigh-Ann?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm certainly not the obsessive type, but that's what I grew up with. I grew up with, the standard of beauty being Princess Diana and the Miss South Africas at the time. So it's very nostalgic. And
Bennie, growing up on a farm, I mean, like, obviously, your family must have thought you were crazy to be interested in this stuff. I mean, this is not what a goeie boereseun must do with his time and his money. Does anyone in the family support you in your interest here in collecting?
When I was younger, it was a bit difficult. We are 4 boys. I'm the eldest. Okay.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So it was a bit even more challenging. But later, when you matriculate, you start to work, you move out, do your own living, then things change. So
what about let's look at these other ones quickly while we're doing this. So what's this one?
So this one is also a porcelain doll. That was made out of a picture of 1988. She and Charles was on a tour in Thailand, and that's why the dress is actually like in a sari style pattern. Even the colors, as you can see, the fuchsia and the pink. Yeah. So what Hannah did, she loved to like wear dresses that would complement the country that she visits. So you can see there I don't know if you call it the Oriental or whatever.
What did you must have been really upset when she died in 1997. That must have really screwed up your world.
Gareth, so you and I are the same age, exact same age. So I was in matric at the time. It was a shock. I remember my father took us to school, and I walked into school, and obviously all my friends started running towards me, and because they all knew I was a collector of magazines and stuff about her. Yeah. And then I looked at them and I turned around and I saw my father was still waiting for me. And he took me home. And I think for that whole week, running up towards the funeral, I actually just stayed in my home and I locked myself in my room.
So it affected you badly. I mean, that's that's incredible. What about this? Let's just take a look at this quickly. And then I want to ask you about that statue that Prince Harry and Prince William unveiled this weekend. I'm sure you saw it, or last week, rather. What is this one before we move on?
Okay, so that was the royal family goes on holidays in Scotland because they have all those beautiful castles in the Highlands. And because it's Scotland, the royal family would always wear like a tartan theme outfit. So the men will wear the quilts. The women will wear either like a suit or just a skirt or a dress. So actually, Diana had that ball gown made for Scotland when they are in at the Balmoral Castle, because the Queen likes to have these dances. And as you can see, it's quite a nice dancing dress with the big skirt. So
Leigh-Ann has one of those. Leigh-Ann, don't you wear one of those, don't you?
Well, I got married in something similar, yeah.
I would love to see it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So Bennie, everybody wants to know what you think of the Princess Diana statue that was unveiled at Kew Gardens last week. Lots of questions coming in on that. What do you think of that? So go ahead. What's your thought on that? And then we want to hear what you think of Prince Harry and his behavior recently.
So the statue, what I've learned over the years, even artists and painters, it's very difficult for them to actually capture Diana's beauty. Because even a lot of the paintings, it looks like her, but doesn't really look like her. I'm very impressed with the way they've sculpted her clothes, because the clothes are spot on. I actually saw the picture of which it was made from.
Yeah.
Her face looks actually like an image of her. I just think that the hairstyle was very late 1997 compared to the whole outfit that they choose.
Right.
Because that picture that they actually made the sculpture from, her hair was like very short and curly.
Right.
You know, so I'm a perfectionist.
Let me see if I'm going to see if I can bring up a picture of that, because then people will know what you're talking about. Yeah, it's been very controversial. What do you think of what's happened with Harry and William? And did you pick up any vibes of the two of them not getting along? Any coldness between them when you saw the pictures and maybe even watched some of the news on that as it happened? I mean, I could care less about this stuff, but there are lots of people who do. Like Urweshni, for example, who says here she loves this. She loves these dolls of yours too. She's a huge Princess Diana fan. So what do you think of Harry and William?
Gareth, to be quite honest, I'm very disappointed in Harry and his behavior, especially with Meghan. I think William is very mature. And even if there was like sort of a struggle between the two when they were unveiling the statue, William will not show it. He will not let the public see his true feelings towards his brother. But I think in the background, there are some feelings that's not resolved.
Okay. So you reckon it's not all happy families?
No.
There's a lot going on. All right, listen, I'm amazed by this collection of yours. So how many of these dolls do you actually have?
I have about 75.
Oh
Wow.
my God. We've seen 3, 4, 5, 6 of them, and you've got 75 of them.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
So we discussed in the Franklin Mint once, but just to like quickly, there were other companies as well that made a few dolls. There was the Danbury Mint that made dolls, also like a Barbie doll with different outfits. There was the Ashton Drake that made a few dolls, but the Franklin Mint are the best ones. They are the most beautiful ones. Yeah. So I've got the other ones. I just didn't send you pictures of them.
No, it's fine. I mean, we don't want you to look crazy or anything, you know. So, Bennie, just one last thing. Are you the only person in South Africa who's collecting these, or do you know anyone else in the country who's also collected these dolls?
Gareth, there are other few people collecting, but I don't think that their collection is so complete as mine.
Yeah.
Like my Franklin Mint porcelain collection is.
They're real losers. They by no means can they compete with you. That's what I've heard.
Absolutely.
Like my Franklin Mint porcelain collection is totally complete.
Right.
I only still need 3 for the vinyl. Then that will be complete. So I actually need, let's say, about 80,000 rand to complete it.
Sure.
Maybe in 10 years' time. Yeah. My Ashton Drake is complete. My Danbury Mint is complete. So basically, I can't collect anymore. There is nothing for me to collect. It's unless for those 3 dolls.
I mean, isn't that a bit frustrating? Because the whole fun of collecting is knowing that there's still gaps to fill. And if you've almost completed everything, then what are you going to do after that? And who's going to inherit these when you? I mean, is there anyone else that you know who's interested, who wants them when you die? I mean, you got to think about these things.
Not at the moment. Maybe I will leave them to a museum or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
To answer your other question, during lockdown, I stumbled across a 1964 Barbie doll with a complete American airline flight attendant suit, her 3 little weeks, and so there another passion started. So at the moment, I'm collecting old Barbie dolls from the 60s, the 80s, and the early 90s. That sort of taken over my Diana collection because, I mean, there is nothing more I can collect at this stage.
Well, there are lots of compliments. Janine, Moonchild, John Bad Dog all saying that they love your collection. But Tracy wants to know, what do you think of the crown? There's another good question.
I love it. I enjoy it because the detail is so good. I mean, everything is replicas. The jewelry, the dresses, the tiaras, everything. And I just love Emma Kuren.
What season are they on at the moment? Because I've kind of fallen off with The Crown. I haven't been watching.
Season 4. It's the most exciting season. That's when they introduced Margaret Thatcher and Princess Diana.
Right. I've seen that's Gillian Anderson who does the Margaret Thatcher role.
Margaret Thatcher, yes.
What do you think of the woman who plays Diana? She's pretty good. She looks quite a lot like her.
I was very skeptical because I've seen a lot of other movies where the actresses they either look like her or they don't sound like her, or they sound like her or they don't look like her. But I totally fell in love with Emma Corrin. I think she is brilliant. She deserves that award that she won for her acting. And Gareth, sometimes when I'm very bored, I will watch season 4 again from the beginning.
Lockdown has done anything. It's given us time to pursue our collections and our hobbies. Listen, it's great to talk to you. And Bennie, thanks so much for being on the show this morning.
Thank you, Gareth. Thank you for having me.
Wow, what a pleasure. There he is. That's Bennie Botes. He is the collector, in this case, of something that I didn't even know existed until today. Wow. How cool.
Wow.
The Princess Diana Franklin Mint dolls. And then he said there are others as well, like Danbury Mint and all the rest of them. Very, very cool. There's something honestly, this is what's so mind-blowing about Collectomania. And of course, Collectomania is brought to you, as it is every single week, by the brilliant people at the SA Gold Coin Exchange and the Scoin Shop. We get to introduce you to compulsive collectors, and you get to hear all the amazing stuff that people are gathering up around them. And listen, I think during lockdown, people have been collecting all kinds of weird stuff too. I'm sure that people have been collecting masks, even though you don't know it. You've probably got a collection of masks.
Oh, yeah.
All the used ones, the ones I know Leigh-Ann has leopard print ones. She has the black ones, the white ones. The ones that
I
look
never became that fashionista. I never did.
No?
No, the most interesting one I have is the soft baby pink, which I never wear because it's the same color as my face. But the most I have in terms of masks is I scrounge around for one underneath my floor mat when I get to a grocery store.
Oh God! Yeah, I keep a packet of them. You know, you buy them in like packs of 10 or whatever.
Yeah.
Keep a pack of them in the car, and that's otherwise, because I don't want them lying around the house. I actually think it's really insanitary and horrible.
It's actually quite stiff.
Yeah, to leave a used mask lying around, it's like leaving a toothbrush lying around. You know, it's kind of something that's been around.
Yeah, even before COVID, imagine picking up someone's dirty mask off the floor.
Yeah.
It's far too personal.
Well, that was very cool to have Bennie on. What an interesting collection. Sounds like a really cool guy. And if you want to share your collections with us, you can do so. Just get hold of us on Collectomania. You can go gareth@cliffcentral.com and we'll get in touch with you and find out about your own collection. The SA Gold Coin Exchange and the Coin Shop also have pretty interesting stuff for you to collect. And let me tell you, in economically uncertain times like we're going through now, having a little bit of gold or silver on you is probably not a bad idea. These things tend to, when times are tough or when the market is unpredictable, gold is a good investment, and there's nothing wrong with having just a little bit of it. If you have some money that you're looking at investing, and you've maybe taken our advice, maybe you hear Sean Sanders every week talking about crypto, you might also want to do some gold.
But before you end, if it will ever end, I hope it doesn't. But Collectomania, let me know, because I'd love to show you the Ardmore collection of porcelain that we have. For that, I'll need to do the show from my mom's house, so I'd need a little bit of warning.
Why don't we save one? We'll save your one for near the end. But I mean, as far as I can tell, this is not the kind of thing that's going to end anytime soon. Dude 69, I love the name, wants to know: is there anyone out there with a collection of dildos? I mean, anything is possible. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Hell yes. Come on. Bring on. I know Mbulelo's got a collection of dildos, don't you, Mbulelo?
Why wouldn't I? I'm perfectly comfortable with my sexuality, and I think dildos are a part of our history, and we must collect all of them.
Right. That's a good idea. Wendy says Bennie should be a regular royal commentator. In fact, that's an awesome plan. What we'll do is we'll keep his contacts, and the next time something happens in the royal family, we'll get Bennie on to give it a proper analysis.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very good idea. All right,
I mean, he's one of the best put together human beings I've ever seen with my own eyes on this planet. Old Bennie, there, he looks like he's just left his shire and he's come to do charity work in London. He really does look right. He's super well put together.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
fantastic.
From the country, the farm that he grew up in, he's his apartment in Knightsbridge by the looks of things. Just looking around behind him, and he was dressed immaculately this morning too.
Absolutely.
Plus, listen, 75 of these dolls in this collection. That's pretty amazing. I'm always blown away by people who manage to collect things and almost manage to complete their collections.
That collection is a timeless one, because collecting Miley Cyrus will have a new singer throwing their badonk around in 5 years' time.
What do you mean about Miley Cyrus? Now, you've done so well today to not have to be nasty to anyone. In fact, Mbulelo, this is the first show we have on record where up to the moment you mentioned Miley Cyrus and started attacking her like that you hadn't been mean to anyone for the whole show.
With 6 minutes to go, you almost made it.
We are who we are. I mean, I've got no problem with Miley, especially this end of her career. But my point is, she's just a pop star, right? Is if you collected porcelain dolls of her. But Diana, no matter what you think of her, is she entered people's hearts, and she was such an interesting figure for me, because my feelings on the royal family. I think they should be out of commission by now. But okay, whatever. Diana is interesting because even as a wealthy woman, she entered people's hearts everywhere, which is almost impossible, because most figures in history come from the working class that enter people's hearts, and you can't fake that. And I think it's what the royal family are trying to do now, and people always try and do, right? Is they try and buy their way into people's hearts. Is whatever she had, it was so organic from her because you can't lie to people. People are not dumb. Just because people are poor, they're not stupid. Is whatever she had, that je ne sais quoi, that Mandela had, that Martin Luther King had, that any other person you can think of. And she's a spectacular figure just for that. And I admire that, because I aspire to that, is to enter people's hearts and have them speak well about you when you're not there. And Diana, my God.
Who knew you would get like this about Princess Diana of all people? Isn't this amazing, Leigh-Ann? Would you guess?
I turned it around. You thought I was going to the dark side with Miley Cyrus, but I'm a great human being. And it's true, because I'm telling you I am.
Well, I'm quite impressed. I didn't expect to hear this from you. Well, I'm not a Diana fan. I'm more of a Camilla fan, right? You know that. I'm much more of a Camilla fan. And apparently yesterday was raise your glass or toast to someone day. And here's Camilla looking fantastic with gin and tonic.
Oh, my God. What a downgrade from Diana. What a downgrade from Diana. I mean,
this woman is fantastic. Look at that smile. She's going to go and have 3 of those gin and tonic. She's going to have 3 of them in a row. She's a happy person. She's ready to enjoy the afternoon a little bit tipsy, maybe a little bit more than tipsy, and then she might do some gardening. She might go and ride the horses. She might go and she might watch her favorite show on TV and cackle like a hag. It's all up to her. Camilla's got the shit. I love
you know what?
She's my favorite.
I would never. I will never drink instant coffee again. It's like Charles said, you know what? I've actually got, because I mean, look at that mess compared to Diana. But
She's not a mess. Like, how dare you? She's very, very
look
good.
At that shambles.
That's the real love story, Mbulelo. You can't handle it.
Diana was single origin, the good stuff. And then you go and drink a coffee now, Charles. Come on, pal. Get it together. What a mess. Just a yellow gemors, as we say here.
That woman, you know what? Diana, God bless her, she never became Queen of England. This woman's going to be Queen of England one day, and we'll see what you have to say. Just get ready. Very excited about that. She can have a proper gin and tonic. You could see that's like this much gin, that much tonic.
At least I know you're special, Gareth, and that speaks to your character.
Hi, everybody. I will have a large tankard full of gin and tonic for lunch because I bloody well can. That's what Camilla says. She doesn't care what
if you just show that photograph again, I can actually smell the gin and tonic. I can feel the bubbles popping onto my face. It looks so good.
You know what? I like her, and there's no amount of your Mbulelo's rudeness that's going to change my mind. She's great.
No, I'm with you, and you've always said it was the greatest love story. Yeah, no, I'm with you.
All right, everybody. I'm sorry that there was so much royal family stuff in the last half an hour of this morning's show, but what an interesting collector Bennie is, and we will no doubt meet some more interesting collectors through the course of the next few weeks, and we will see you tomorrow morning, bright and early, at 6 o'clock. Don't miss cliffcentral.com as we go live on YouTube and on podcast or wherever else you are. You can join us. Thank you very much for being part of it today. We will see you tomorrow.